Hey, night owls, scooch a little closer to the glow of the screen, loosen your shoulders, and take a slow breath. The fan is humming, the room is dim, and we're about to wander into one of history's least Instagram-ready destinations, the medieval leper colony. Spoiler alert, if you think one night camping without Wi-Fi is rough, you would not make it till breakfast behind those worm-eaten palisades. Let's pause for a deep breath, because if you're already itching at imaginary lesions, that's normal. Medieval people got psychosomatic prickles too. They feared leprosy the way we fear pop-up malware warnings, except the virus meant eternal damnation and a slow anatomical unzip. Meals are donations from the outside world, seconds from monastery kitchens, wilted turnips, lumps of barley bread hardened into doorstops. Protein? Sometimes a kind knight sends dried fish. Mostly you survive on watery pottage, flavored with equal parts salt, despair, and whichever herbs Brother Apothecary thinks will balance your black bile this week. But the real torment is social. Inside those palisades you're among equals, yes, but no one volunteered for the position. Everyone's grieving the same cosmic eviction notice. No hugs from spouses, no lullabies for children, no market day gossip. You yearn for conversation about anything except the latest joint that turned to chalk. Yet that's what folks talk about, because disease is the only trending topic in this gated community. Hey, Brother Hugh, lost any toes overnight? Just the one, sister. Pass the broth. Nightfall intensifies everything. Oil lamps are scarce, so the huts flicker like dying fireflies. Rats emerge, dogs howl outside the fence, and someone somewhere is always coughing up a bit of lung. You wrap your cloak tighter, not for warmth, you can't feel half your limbs anyway, but to pretend the cloth equals privacy. It doesn't. Privacy died with your legal identity. Occasionally, the outside world drifts back in. A traveling monk arrives, clutching dispensation letters sealed with wax as thick as hope, promising indulgences if you recite 15 paternosters and refrain from cursing God when the wind blows through your finger bones. A few nobles visit on Maundy Thursday to perform foot washing, though they mostly dab the tops of your boots with rosewater while keeping their faces theatrically serene. Charity completed, they gallop away to air out their consciences in rose gardens. Let's address the elephant in the cloister, contagion. Medieval medicine wrongly believed leprosy jumped by eye contact, bad air, or, my personal favorite, overindulgence in hot baths and spicy food. So basically, you got banished for living your best spa life. In truth, Hansen's disease spreads via prolonged close contact and is not wildly contagious, but the fear machine didn't have a pause button. That fear wrote laws. Lepers couldn't stand downwind of taverns. They had to walk well off the main road. If they dared enter a church, they were shoved into a side alcove behind a screen, half saint, half biohazard. Imagine experiencing Mass like a ghost eavesdropping on the living. You want something to do? Welcome to the housekeeping rota. Tending the herb patch, mending bell ropes, or weaving coarse linen to sell for pennies. Productivity distracts you from the fact that each task erodes another body part. Your fingers numb, fine motor skills exit stage left. Needles slip, threads tangle. The linen looks like it was chewed by horses. Doesn't matter. Buyers expect leper cloth to be lousy. They purchase out of pity and to pad their afterlife karma receipts. Every so often, a miracle rumor sweeps through. Someone drank spring water at St. Radagon's shrine and the lesions faded. 2 pilgrims swear blind they saw a former leper rejoin society with fresh pink skin, a wife, and a small bakery empire. Hope flares, contagious as laughter. You pray harder, fast longer, scrape coins for a pilgrimage fund. Then winter gnaws through roofs, a friend's nose collapses overnight, and reality muffles hope like fresh snow over a grave. What about love? Technically, the church allowed lepers to marry each other, a loophole that makes prison yard romances look glamorous. The ceremony happened through a small window. Rings were placed on stunted fingers, the kiss replaced by a cautious forehead lean. Married life meant sharing a hut, swapping bandage duty, and whispering jokes about which one would keep the bell when the other inevitably died. It's tender and tragic and eerily human. Speaking of death, let's walk to the colony cemetery. No, you can't skip this field trip. Burials happen fast. Bodies decompose faster when circulation fails, and ulcers open highways for infection. The graveyard is technically consecrated ground, but no one carves fancy effigies. A simple wooden cross, name burned with a hot poker, maybe a verse if Brother Scriptorium's hands aren't trembling too hard. The coffin is recycled. Corpse inside, quick prayer, tip body into earth, reclaim the boards for the next tenant. Wood's expensive. Sentiment is a luxury. If you're still awake, and I warned you this was boring history for sleep, which really just means sad history told softly, consider the psychological toll. Once labeled a leper, always a leper. Even misdiagnosed folk, eczema, psoriasis, tuberculosis, rarely got a second chance. Years later, lesions healed, limbs intact, they still clutched the stigma like a shadow. Try knocking on your hometown gate after a decade. Best case, they pity feed you at arm's length. Worst case, pitchforks and the bell chase you right back to square one. Yet, inside this misery incubator, culture brewed. Lepers developed their own liturgy, their own patron saints. Chief among them Lazarus, the resurrected beggar, Job, champion of boils, and Mary Magdalene, model of outcast devotion. They sang hymns with cracked voices, wrote lament psalms that modern scholars now study for glimpses of medieval mental health. Even in forced seclusion, humans stubbornly create meaning the way moss creeps over ruin. Fast forward to the colonial era, and the script copies itself across oceans. In 19th century Hawaii, the kingdom's Board of Health exiled patients to Kalapapa, a lava rock peninsula enclosed by 2,000-foot cliffs and shark-friendly seas. The scenery was postcard perfect. The medical facilities were rocks, tents, and resignation. Supply ships tossed crates onto shore and sailed away before sunset. Imagine paradise as a cage. That's Kalapapa. Father Damien, the famous priest who lived and died among patients there, once wrote, "I would not exchange my colony of lepers for a king's palace," which is inspirational until you realize he'd been banned from the palace anyway. Europe finally phased out its lazar houses in the 16th and 17th centuries, thanks to changing medical theories and the bubonic plague hogging the spotlight. Many colonies were repurposed as poorhouses or hospitals for normal contagions. Smallpox, syphilis, the hits keep coming. But the architecture remained. Chapels scarred by incense and gossip, cloisters that smelled of limewash and unspoken sorrow, dormitories where initials carved into beams recorded people desperate not to vanish utterly. Modern medicine cracked the bacterial code in 1873.
Mycobacterium leprae, if you want the Latin for your trivia arsenal. Antibiotics in the 20th century made leprosy treatable, non-scary, boring even. And yet the term leper still pops up in casual conversation as shorthand for untouchable. Language has a hoarder's memory. It keeps every shard of fear we've ever flung at each other.
So, you still think you could survive a day in a leper colony? Let's recap your itinerary. Sunrise. You wake on a straw mat infested with beetles, half your face numb like post-dentist anesthesia that never wears off. Breakfast. Thin gruel ladled by a volunteer who stands 6 feet away, tossing crumbs like you're a zoo exhibit. Mid-morning chores. You chop firewood with hands that don't quite grip, while flies treat open sores like landing pads. Noon prayer. Kneel on frost-bitten knees that forgot the sensation of pain, listening to Brother Thomas read psalms about joy. Irony drips thicker than the candle wax. Afternoon visitation hour. Local children dare each other to peek through the fence, shriek, and run. Your self-esteem does synchronized cannonballs. Evening. A patient dies. You and 3 others dig shallow soil because picks are scarce. The sunset is gorgeous. Grief has impeccable lighting. Night. Fever dreams, scuttling rodents. You clutch your bell to your chest like a teddy bear and wonder whether heaven smells less like rot. Clock out after that and tell me you're still bragging about your grit. Yet, here's the twist that keeps historians awake. For all the cruelty, many colonies became strange microcosms of solidarity. People learned to bandage each other, harvest herbs, craft crude prosthetics from leather and wood. They staged passion plays, brewed ale, even fell in love. Humanity leaks through the cracks, unstoppable as dandelions through cobblestones. Eventually, if you lived long enough, the colony felt not home exactly, but familiar. The outside world forgot you, but you memorized every creak in the chapel door, every bird that nested in the rafters. Your identity fused with the rhythm of bells and prayers and slow decay. Freedom became an abstract painting hanging in someone else's hallway. And that, dear listener, curled beneath your comforter, is why you truly wouldn't last a day. Not because of the ulcers, or the quarantine, or the smell, though good luck. It's the existential knockout punch. Being declared dead while still inhaling, and having to keep inhaling anyway. Survival in a leper colony required a specific cocktail of resignation and resilience, a capacity to find meaning in the thinnest broth of circumstance. Most of us, pampered by choice, would break faster than a clay bowl in frost. Gray daylight slips over the palisade like a damp shawl, and before your eyes even open fully, the clapper is already thunk-thunking in someone's palsied hand, summoning the colony to prayers that feel more like roll call for the half-living. You push upright on the plank bed, straw crackling under you, and notice a new numbness in your right index finger. Yesterday it tingled faintly, today it's pure marble. Somewhere in your brain, a voice catalogs the symptom, adds it to the ledger of slow vanishings, then tells you to hurry because the thin porridge gets thinner by the ladleful. You shuffle outside, cloak dragging through puddles that smell of wood smoke and rot, and the air greets you with that sour-sweet odor unique to places where flesh dissolves slower than reputations. Nobody bothers with small talk in the breakfast queue. Conversations happen in raised eyebrows, nods, and the occasional dark joke. Brother Anselm, who lost most of his upper lip last winter, grins like a cheerful skull and observes that at least today's gruel contains something crunchy. Might be barley, might be beetle shells. Sister Idonia replies that crunch builds character, then accidentally drops her bowl when her fingers spasm. Instantly 5 people stoop to help, not because charity is trending, but because any spilled calories are a tragedy. The gesture is awkward, bodies bending at odd angles to avoid accidental skin contact. Even here, inside the fence, old taboos cling like burrs. The salvaged portion gets poured back into her bowl, grass blades included, and nobody complains. Grass is fiber. Fiber is health, so the apothecary claims.
While you eat, the steward reads aloud the weekly rota. Today, you're assigned to the herb garden, a grand term for 4 raised beds of mud where garlic, sage, and wormwood battle slugs and neglect. Once upon a time, gardeners worried about soil pH. Here, you worry about whether your hands will still grip the trowel by noon. Before you head off, Brother Physician staggers through, doling out foul-tasting tonics from a jug that might once have held wine. His remedy, he says, contains ground black pepper, vinegar, and a dash of powdered emerald, donated jewelry crushed for the cause. Everyone swallows, because hope, however gritty, goes down easier than despair. The emerald tastes like chalk and superstition. Still, you feel virtuous afterward, as if you've swallowed a shard of heaven's gate.
Out in the garden, the ground is slick with last night's rain. You kneel on a plank to spare your knees from the cold earth, but sensation is already fading below mid-shin. Leprosy's anesthetic miracle. The numbness frightens newcomers. Veterans treat it like an inconvenient roommate. You learn to watch your limbs the way a blacksmith watches smoldering coals. One inattentive moment and something scorches without sending pain up the nerve telegraph lines. Brother Gilbert demonstrates the colony hack for safe weeding. He keeps a candle stub in his pocket and touches its flame to his fingertips every hour. If he doesn't feel heat, he knows he's bleeding somewhere. Pain as diagnostic tool. Efficient, morbid, weirdly logical.
Mid-morning, a visitor arrives, a local bailiff wrapped in furs, flanked by 2 page boys who hold scented cloths to their noses. He brings alms, gathered from parish tithes, sacks of rye, a bundle of beeswax candles, and 3 dented pewter cups. He announces them with the fanfare of a king donating crown jewels. The colony lines up, thank yous whispered, eyes lowered. One page boy hams you a candle at arm's length, gaze flicking across your bandaged face before skittering away as though eye contact might ignite lesions on his own skin. You can't decide whether to feel angry or grateful, so you choose the safer emotion, weary relief. Candles mean light tonight, and light means the rats hesitate. When the bailiff departs, Sister Ismen mutters a psalm of thanks seasoned with sarcasm. She used to be a midwife, delivered half the healthy babies in the surrounding villages, but the moment pale patches blossomed on her forearms, her former clients paraded her to the leper tribunal like a fox caught in the henhouse. Now she delivers herbs and sarcasm instead of infants. She runs the colony's rumor mill. Today's scoop is that a nearby noblewoman petitioned the bishop to establish a second Lazar house farther upriver, so her tenants needn't glimpse your ruined countenances on market day. No one is surprised. Invisibility has always been the preferred cure for social discomfort.
After chores, you limp to the infirmary hut because brother physician requested volunteers for a new experiment. The infirmary smells of pine tar and failure. On a roughly hewn table lie 2 iron instruments that resemble blacksmith tongs, heated red hot in a brazier. The idea, he explains, is to cauterize ulcer edges so they stop fraying like rotten rope. You agree, mostly, because saying no feels ungrateful after the emerald tonic. The pain, yes, blessed pain, spikes briefly, then fizzles as nerves decide they've had enough of sensation. Smoke curls up, scented of pork crackling. You gag but stay still. When it's done, he wraps the wound in cloth soaked with wine and honey, cleanses corruption, the herbal says, and marks your name on a wax tablet labeled Experimental Cohort. You joke that being a cohort makes you sound like a Roman legionary. He smiles sadly and says legionaries usually got pension land.
Lunch is a repeat of breakfast, porridge encore, now flavored with leeks. Conversation drifts to theology because suffering invites metaphysics, like spilled sugar invites ants. Brother Otto claims leprosy is a purifying fire God grants to his favorites. Sister Idonia counters that if that were true, bishops would queue for infection. Laughter ripples. Gallows humor is communal anesthesia. Someone recites a verse from Isaiah about hands that cannot feel. Someone else points out that Isaiah was not, in fact, living in a mud hut sipping bug soup. The debate ends when thunder growls overhead. Rain means roof leaks. Leaks means sodden bedding, and sodden bedding is the devil's handshake. Afternoon brings the weekly inspection by Father Confessor, a gaunt Dominican who treats repentance like an Olympic event. He sits in a curtained booth near the chapel door while colonists kneel outside, confessing through linen screens. Technically, the screen prevents droplet spread. Practically, it preserves his nerves. When your turn arrives, you confess to anger, to envy of healthy bodies, to thinking uncharitable thoughts about the bailiff's scented cloth. Father murmurs absolution, but assigns a stiff penance. Copy Psalm 38 onto parchment for use in next week's vigil. Your handwriting has gone shaky, but he insists. Copying scripture teaches patience, and if you bleed on the vellum, call it a red rubric. You head to the scriptorium hut, where quills are carved from goose feathers with missing barbs, and ink is brewed from oak gulls and vinegar. The desk is a warped plank, but when you sit and steady your quill, something miraculous happens. The world shrinks to black strokes, parchment vibers, the scratch-scratch rhythm. Pain retreats, despair pauses at the door. For an hour you are not a leper. You're a scribe, guardian of words older than pustules. The completed psalm glistens wetly. You blow on it, watch the letters darken like storm clouds, and feel almost smug. Disease may nibble your flesh, but it hasn't eaten your literacy. Sunset bleeds across the thatch, and it's time for the daily procession to the roadside cross. You form a ragged line, bells chiming, and shuffle beyond the stockade to a stone crucifix where travelers sometimes leave coins for plague protection. Tonight, a merchant wagon rattles toward you. The driver sees the bells, pulls his cloak over his mouth, and whips the horse to a trot. Dust swirls, coins do not. Sister Ismene laughs, calls after him that fear wrinkles the soul worse than leprosy wrinkles skin. The driver doesn't hear, or pretends not to. You place a single candle stub at the cross's base as offering, watch the flame waver in the breeze, then turn back inside before curfew. Dinner. Thin cabbage stew, faintly sour,
shared in the refectory, where roof beams drip slow leaks onto benches polished by misery. After bowls are stacked, Brother Cantor begins Compline. He leads a hymn in cracked Latin, voices weaving through mildew-laden air. You notice harmonies. You notice absences. Sister Juliana's voice is missing tonight. She's in the infirmary with fever that glows like ember on her cheeks. During the hymn, you find yourself crying silently, tears burning tiny clean tracks down dusted skin. You wipe them quick. Water is precious.
Night watch rotates. This evening, you patrol the fence with a lantern, checking for gaps where local boys might toss stones, or worse, sneak in to gawk. The lantern spills a trembling pool of yellow across mud and nettles. You catch reflections. 2 eyes in brush, probably a fox. Good, foxes eat rats. You mutter a blessing on its cunning. Halfway through patrol, you step on something soft, a bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside, 2 loaves of bread and a slip of parchment. Forgive our fear. Pray for us. No signature. You stash the loaves in your cloak. At dawn, they'll go to the infirmary first.
Back at your hut, you set the lantern down and examine today's cauterized ulcer. Edges look dry, less angry. You whisper thanks to whatever saint handles wound care, then lay flat on straw. Rain drums the roof and wind threads through gaps in wattle walls, but exhaustion cradles you. Before sleep claims you, memory surfaces. A fair day years ago, music in the square, your hands ungloved, your face untouched. You hold the image gently until it blurs, then vanishes like mist, leaving only the drumbeat of rain and distant coughs echoing through the colony. Sometime past midnight, you wake to commotion, bells clanging in frantic rhythm. You grab your own bell, stumble outside, find half the colony huddled by the chapel. Flames flicker behind stained glass. Lightning must have struck the belfry. Roof shingles blaze like torches. Reflex kicks in, bucket chain from the well. But bodies here move slow, grips falter. Water sloshes, half spills, fire climbs. Father Confessor appears outside the fence, shouting for helpers, but healthy villagers hesitate at the gate. In their eyes, leper fire is divine judgment, best observed from a safe radius. You join Brother Gilbert hauling a bucket up the ladder, rungs slick, wrists trembling. Heat scorches your cheeks. Patches of numb flesh register only pressure, yet instinct screams retreat. You pour water, steam hisses, flames roar back. Another climb, another pour. At last, storm rain intensifies, smothering sparks. The chapel survives, charred but standing. Inside, smoke curls around soot-black saints whose wooden faces now wear expressions of weary endurance. Everyone coughs, wheezes, yet there's relief. Losing the chapel would feel like losing the colony's single window into grace. Dawn comes early, gray and spent. Instead of prayers, cleanup begins, sweeping ash, patching roof holes with salvaged timber, airing hymnals to keep mildew at bay. The crisis, oddly, galvanizes spirits. Sister Juliana, feverish last night, drags herself out to sort usable nails from bent ones. You notice the way people work shoulder to shoulder without flinching. Fire, it seems, burns fear's topsoil, exposes raw community beneath. Late morning, a rider approaches, royal messenger in crimson livery. He halts at safe distance, reads a proclamation. His Majesty's Council decrees a new levy to fund hospitals. Each parish must send coin. In return, laser houses will receive annual shipments of linen and salted meat. The messenger deposits a sealed chest by the roadside, meant for local officials, not for you, and gallops off. But the decree sparks arguments. Will supplies actually reach the colony or vanish into bureaucratic gullets? Brother Anselm votes to send a delegation to the Shire Hall. Sister Ismene laughs, pictures 3 limping lepers pleading before silk-robed clerks. The debate ends unresolved, but the idea of salted meat lingers like the smell of imaginary bacon. Siesta after midday finds you drafting a letter on scrap parchment, a plea to the bishop to replace the chapel bell rope, scorched in last night's blaze. You craft sentences carefully, balancing humility with urgency, because rhetoric can pry open purse strings. While writing, you realize your script has grown more elegant since arriving. Slower hands force deliberate strokes. Small victory, you smile. Disease can have your nerves, but not your penmanship. At Vespers, Father Confessor surprises everyone by praising the colony's bravery during the fire. He calls it proof that even the marginalized wield heroic virtue. His words flutter around the rafters like bewildered sparrows. Affirmation is rarer than soap here. Some faces glow. Others mistrust the compliment. Praise often precedes new rules. Yet for one heartbeat, you let it land. You, bell-bearing exile, did something valiant. Twilight ushers in Story Hour, an unofficial ritual. Everyone gathers around the hearth outside the refectory, passing a clay mug of weak ale. Tonight, Sister Idonia recounts her first months as a midwife, the scents of lavender and blood, the fierce jubilation when a newborn wailed. Her voice trembles, but she presses on, detailing how touch, once her sacred tool, became forbidden. The group listens, silent but electric. When she finishes, Brother Gilbert begins a bawdy anecdote about a monk, a beehive, and an unfortunate case of mistaken ointment. Laughter erupts, real and throaty. For 10 minutes, nobody is sick, nobody is shunned. You're just folks swapping tales by firelight. The stars emerge, crisp after the storm. You wander to the fence, look up, and count constellations you learned as a child. Orion hunting, Cassiopeia reclining. The sky at least is democratic. It shines on ulcers and silk alike. A shooting star streaks west. You silently wish, not for cure, too grand, too greedy, but for tomorrow's porridge to include onions. Humble petitions feel more achievable. Back in the hut, you slip under the cloak, lungs sore from smoke, muscles from ladder climbs. Sleep sidles in, but before it claims you, Sister Juliana's cough rings out from the infirmary. You promise yourself to deliver one of the loaves to her at dawn. Bread, hope, maybe a joke about crunchy beetles. The colony survives on such small transactions of kindness. As you drift, you realize the day held everything: fear, toil, pain, purpose, laughter, ash, and starlight. You lasted 24 hours in a leper colony. Not heroic, not graceful, but intact. Could an outsider manage the same without snapping? Hard to say. Endurance here isn't measured in clean bandages, but in the stubborn decision to answer the bell every morning, numb hand or not. The night deepens. Wind hushes the leaves, and somewhere an owl hoots, unconcerned with human classifications of clean and unclean. You let the hoot carry you toward dreams, where touch doesn't poison, where bells ring for weddings instead of warnings. Yet even as sleep claims you, part of your mind stands ready for the next clang, the next crisis, because in this place, vigilance is as natural as breathing. Sunrise arrives as a rumor rather than a spectacle, seeping through the plank shutters in washed-out streaks that can't quite decide whether to be gold or gray. You're on bread delivery duty, your own volunteering, though Brother Anselm called it foolish heroism when you mentioned it. The loaf from last night still smells faintly of rye and wood smoke, but it has cooled into a stone-hard promise. You slip it into a pouch, wrap a rag around your sandals, and head for the infirmary. Inside, damp straw and vinegar greet you like old co-workers. Sister Juliana is propped on a pallet, cheeks flushed the alarming crimson of a candle about to gutter. Her eyes flicker open the instant your foot creaks on the threshold. Fevers train people to sleep lightly. She tries to muster a smile, but the expression collapses halfway. You kneel, break the loaf into shards softened in weak broth, and feed her bite by bite. Between mouthfuls she whispers crop-field memories, wind in barley, sun on bare arms. And you nod as if you've been there, though you were city-born and know barley only as porridge grit. When the last crumb is gone, she asks whether dawn still smells of wet earth. You tell her it does, extravagantly. A tiny lie. Today's dawn smelled of smoke embers. But lies can be medicinal. She sinks back to the pallet, fingers clutching the blanket like it's a rope across a ravine. You touch her shoulder, gingerly, through cloth, and slip back outside before gratitude becomes unbearable. The colony is already humming. Today is Exchange Day, one of 2 mornings each month when locals are permitted to trade through the hatch in the outer wall. It's commerce by keyhole. You slide goods out, they slide payment in. Nobody sees more than hands and wrists. Still, the ritual electrifies everyone. Coins mean candles, soap, maybe even cheese if the steward haggles well. The task roster pins you to the counting table, where you'll tally coppers with Brother Gilbert while Father Confessor observes like a hawk who suspects his chicks of skimming. You take your place under the awning beside 2 crates of colony crafts, carved wooden spoons, smooth edges, no splinters, bundles of medicinal herbs, and surprisingly delicate lacework that Sister Ismini knots with fingers twisted by disease yet guided by memory. On the other side of the wall, unseen villagers shuffle, cough, mutter. A bell clangs, the hatch slides up. First offering: 3 turnips and a wedge of aged goat cheese in exchange for a spoon and a sachet of sage. Fair enough. You record figures with charcoal on scrap birch bark while Brother Gilbert handles the physical handoff. He whistles softly, ostentatiously counting every coin allowed so Father Confessor can't accuse anyone of freelancing salvation. As the queue lengthens, the rhythm settles. Offer, accept, exchange, note. Behind you, Brother Physician appears, carrying a jar of something that looks like river mud and smells like alley cat. He announces, to no one in particular, that he's perfected a clay and honey poultice reputed to draw out the lion in the sore. You're not sure sores should contain lions, but the phrase sounds authoritative. He hopes to trade 3 jars for a bolt of linen. You scribble the request into the margin. Physician, mad. 3x poultice, linen, maybe parchment? The man drifts off, preaching to himself about humors and planetary alignments. Midway through the exchange, commotion flares outside, raised voices, something about short wait, someone else about contamination. You freeze, charcoal hovering. Brother Gilbert cracks knuckles and murmurs a prayer that sounds suspiciously like "Lord, muzzle fools." Father Confessor steps forward, lifts the bell around his neck, and rings twice. Sharp, imperial. Silence falls. He recites the statute. Goods presented by lepers are to be handled only with tongs and purified in smoke, but their coin is legal tender and shall not be refused. The crowd quiets, though you detect the rustle of disgust falling back into compliance.
Then a curious hand slides through the hatch, slender, gloved in scarlet kid leather. It places a sealed scroll on the ledge alongside a small purse of silver pennies, more money than you've seen since arrival. The gloved fingers tap twice, an odd pattern, and withdraw. No goods requested in return. Father Confessor frowns, breaks the wax. Inside, a single sentence in elegant chancery script. For sister is mean. Keep copying, more to come. No signature, just a watermark of a lily. A hush travels the counting table. Brother Gilbert raises an eyebrow, but Father Confessor pockets the scroll with the guilty swiftness of a schoolmaster confiscating contraband. You make a mental note of the message anyway. Secrets, here, are as common as coughs.
Exchange winds down near noon. Tally shows 4 shillings, 12 pence, 2 buttons of questionable silver, and half a promise of linen the bailiff's clerk swore would arrive next cart. You pack the coins into a locked coffer and march it to the steward's hut. Father Confessor follows, key in hand, still brooding over the anonymous scroll. You wonder whether he'll share it or shred it. After a thin lunch of boiled turnips, now dignified by goat cheese shavings, luxury, you head to the workshop for penance duty, copying medical recipes. Father Confessor, perhaps softened by commerce's success, assigns you a real quire of parchment, crisp, ivory, almost fragrant, that arrived with the coin. He wants clean transcripts of brother physicians' newest treatments to send bishops who sponsor colonial research. Essentially, you're marketing the man's dubious mud in ecclesiastical circles. You settle at the table beside Sister Ismene, whose needle flits through lace like a dragonfly over water. You mention the mysterious scroll. Her needles pause mid-air. A flicker of storm crosses her eyes, then vanishes behind practiced calm. She says only, "Old ghosts are persistent." You let the subject drop, dip quill into oak gall ink, and begin. Take wormwood, rosemary, and the lesser celandine, boil in vinegar until half reduced. Hours pass in scratch and stitch. At some point, the quill nib splits. You trim it with a small knife, noting that blades here are sharper than the boundaries between hope and delusion. Outside, thunder rumbles again. Summer can't decide whether to scorch or soak. You and the parchment shelter in a cone of lamplight, while rain gusts sideways against the shutters. Evening chores interrupted by a shout. The fence gate thuds open, and 2 guards from the nearby manor half drag, half guide a terrified boy of maybe 13. White patches mottle his cheeks, whether from flour or fright you can't tell. The guards declare his family found lesions, fear smallpox or worse. Beg the colony to hold him until the parish physician inspects. Standard procedure. Deposit the problem behind the palisade, let experts in contagion evaluate. Father Confessor sighs, motions you and Brother Ansem to escort the boy to quarantine hut. Inside the hut, you start the decontamination rite. Wash hands in vinegar, burn rosemary branches for fumigation. The boy shivers, insisting he just scrubbed his face raw while milling grain. Under lamplight, you examine the patches, powdery residue, not nodules. No anesthesia in the skin, pulse steady. Brother Ansem slaps his thigh, declares the boy healthy as a plow horse. But rules are rules. Minimum 3 days observation. Panic floods the kid's eyes. You kneel beside him, whispering the colony's unofficial motto. Don't trust first judgments. Life's longer than rumors. He doesn't relax, yet his breathing slows. You hand him a wooden token carved as a lamb, colony currency for bread. Symbolic comfort, really. Tonight, bread is free. By dusk, gossip spreads. A healthy child locked inside. Opinions split like cracked stone. Some see divine test, others see liability. Meanwhile, brother physician salivates at a non-leprous subject to compare nerve reactions. You volunteer for night watch again, citing the boy's fear. Secretly, you crave solitude after a day of coin clatter. The quarantine hut sits at the compound's edge, half hidden by elderberry bushes. Wind shakes the branches, scattering raindrops that thump like tossed pebbles. Inside, lantern glow softens the rough timber walls. The boy, Rorek by name, picks at the lamb token, asking whether lepers ever go home. You tell him the truth. Sometimes, when diagnosis reverses or wealthy cousins intervene. Often, no. He processes that in silence, then asks why your hands don't hurt when you hold them over the lantern. You explain anesthetic numbness, which fascinates and horrifies him in equal measure. To pass time, you propose storytelling. He wants nights, you want distraction. So you weave the tale of Sir Percival the Slightly Confused, a bumbling knight who defeats a dragon by accidentally dropping his helmet on its toe. Rorek laughs, a big, unruly sound that startles nearby crows into flight. Laughter here feels like contraband, and you savor the echo. Near midnight, rain stops. The hut quiets, except for Rorek's soft snores. You step outside, lantern shielded, and almost collide with Sister Ismene. She's wrapped in a cloak, hood deep enough to hide secrets. In her hand, a folded parchment bears the lily watermark. She asks whether the boy sleeps. You nod. She slips the letter under the hut's door. "Let him read at dawn," she whispers. Before you can question, she's gone into the orchard shadows. Ghosts indeed. Back at your own hut, sleep fights smoke-tainted lungs, but fatigue wins. Dreams tangle, scarlet gloves tapping codes, lions in ulcers, knights dropping helmets on dragon toes. At cockcrow, bells clang for matins, but you're already awake, mind buzzing with questions. You hurry to the quarantine hut. Rorek clutches the lily letter, eyes wide. "It's from my sister," he says. Turns out his family lives on Lady Eveline's estate, the noblewoman rumored to fund a separate Lazar house. The sister's note explains she disguised herself in gloves to deliver money and secret messages. She believes the colony harbors connections to scribes who can document injustices, and she begs Rorek to pass along details of tenant abuses. Political intrigue. Exactly what Father Confessor dreads. You ask the boy to keep the letter hidden until you consult Sister Ismene. He agrees, though worry trembles in his voice. Morning assembly in the refectory. Steward announces that the bailiff, same scented cloth man, has summoned Father Confessor to discuss reports of sedition circulating among the diseased. Evidently, someone heard the laughter last night, interpreted it as plotting. Paranoia travels faster than fleas. Confessor departs with 2 guards, leaving the colony under temporary leadership of Brother Physician, whose administrative skills rival a drunken goat's.
With father away, a mood of reckless opportunity spreads. Brother Anselm proposes repairing the western fence section the bailiff always ignores. Symbolic independence, he says. Sister Idonia advocates teaching Rorik basic wound wrapping so he can assist in the infirmary. Brother Physician, meanwhile, organizes a demonstration of his clay and honey lion taming poultice. A patient named Hugo volunteers, mostly to avoid fence duty. You bounce between tasks, sawing timber for fence braces, copying psalms because habit is glue, checking on Rorik, who now crushes rosemary for fumigation like he was born to the mortar. Afternoon sun actually appears, warm and wide, and for an improbable sliver of time, the colony resembles a bustling village rather than a terminal waiting room. Then disaster. Small scale, but loud. Hugo's arm, freshly poulticed, erupts in angry blisters. He howls. Brother Physician sputters. Everyone else rushes water buckets. Turns out the clay jar was mislabeled, mixed with quicklime, meant for latrine pits. The burn is bad, but superficial thanks to numbness. Still, confidence in Physician plummets like a stone through thin ice. Sister Ismini corners you afterward, eyes flashing. We need outside medicine, real surgeons, not alchemists. She wants the mysterious Lily benefactor to fund a clandestine courier run to a university in Montpellier, where rumors say scholars study new skin graft methods. You object, travel permits, risk, but she argues the colony's slow erosion is a bigger risk. And she believes you, parchment scribe, can draft a persuasive appeal. Evening descends with unusual hush. No Compline hymn because Brother Cantor twisted his ankle battling a runaway goat. The goat won. Instead, colonists gather around a low fire, exhausted by incidents. Someone passes a skin of diluted wine acquired from barter. The steward looks away, tacit blessing. You sip, taste sour grapes and liberation. Discussion circles the flickering light. Should the colony petition the bishop for a licensed surgeon? Should they hide any evidence of quicklime burns to avoid shutdown? Should they smuggle letters? Opinions clash, reconcile, clash again. Eventually, consensus tilts toward cautious rebellion. Knowledge is life, and life is worth smuggling for. You volunteer to compose the letter tonight. The firelight paints your parchment amber as you write. To the esteemed masters of physic at Montpellier, greetings from the humble fraternity of St. Lazarus. You write of suffering, courage, experimental errors, the urgent need for trained aid. You fold the plea, seal it with the colony's wax stamp, an X inside a circle symbolizing both exile and community, and tuck it into your tunic. But how to send it? Scarlet-gloved courier seems likely, yet unreliable. You recall the fox that prowls nights. Perhaps you envy its stealth. For now, the letter will sleep beneath your mattress, cradled by straw and hope. Night patrol again, your choice. The sky overhead is velvet, pricked with shards of moonlight. You trace the fence perimeter, ears attuned. At the north corner, you detect muffled sobbing. It's Brother Gilbert, kneeling by a row of crude crosses, graves of those who lost the last gamble. He confesses between hiccups that he feels the lion in his own sores. Quicklime panic reminded him. You sit beside him in mud, share silence, then words. He fears dying without touching a loved one again. You admit same fear. Two silhouettes under starlight, equal in fragility, and for a moment you understand why the outside world shuns you. Your honesty is radioactive. You cannot hide mortality. You wear it like a lantern.
You both return to huts heavier and lighter. Sleep circles but doesn't land. Instead, you revisit the day's ledger. Bread delivered, coins counted, child sheltered, skin burned, letter written. Another 24 hours survived. Outside, an owl again calls. Maybe the same, maybe her mate. You whisper a greeting, feel foolish, then less foolish. Owls judge nothing.
Lantern smoke still clings to the rafters when the dogs announce visitors. Low, uneasy growls that coil through the pre-dawn mist like a rumor nobody wants to believe. You're already awake, holding the sealed appeal to Montpellier against your chest, pulse thrumming harder than the chapel bell. Behind the gate, you can make out torches bobbing in uneasy rhythm and a voice you recognize. Father Confessor, back from the bailiff's manor earlier than anyone expected. He does not wait to be let in. Keys rattle, hinges screech, iron braces slam, and he strides through the compound with 2 armed parish guards at his heels. Mud spatters his cassock up to the knees, as if he has marched the whole road rather than accept a wagon. His eyes, ordinarily a careful gray, look storm black. When he stops in the courtyard, every conversation dies mid-word. Even the goats freeze.
"Where is the boy?" Confessor asks, no preamble, no blessing. Sister Idonia guides him toward the quarantine hut, but before she reaches the door, the guards shove past and wrench it open. Rorik blinks in the lamplight, clutching his lamb token and the lily letter, look of a sparrow cornered by hawks. Confessor scans the white patches on his cheeks, wipes one with a rough thumb, then lifts the thumb to the guards.
"Flower," he mutters. "The bailiff's physician was correct.
Relief barely has time to bloom on the boy's face. Confessor turns sharply to the crowd. Nonetheless, the colony is reminded that sheltering the healthy is prohibited under Diocesan Ordinance 26. The boy must return home at once. And his gaze sweeps over you, pinning your spine to the wall. All unauthorized correspondence will be surrendered now. Several colonists inhale at once, like a sea drawing back before a wave. You feel the appeal to Montpellier burning a hole through your tunic. Does the lily letter count? Does your unfinished psalm draft? Confessor raises a gloved hand. Any parchment not stamped by my seal or the steward's record is contraband. His voice is quieter now, which makes it worse, because quiet means planned. He orders the guards to search huts. Brother Anselm splutters protest. This breaks sanctuary tradition, but protest means little against steel. The guards begin ripping thatch, overturning straw pallets, kicking over jars. Sister Ismene, perched on a stool outside the infirmary, hides her lacework under her cloak and stares at you, unblinking. Move. You pivot toward the orchard, casual as can be, fingers tight around the sealed appeal. Fox tracks crisscross yesterday's rain-soft soil. You follow them, not trusting your own plan until your legs are already moving. Beneath the elderberry bushes stands an abandoned chicken coop, roof collapsed, boards green with moss. You pry a loose plank, slide the folded appeal between wood and dirt, tamp the soil back with your heel. A prayer, quick and ragged. Hold, just hold. Then you dust your hands with wet leaves and head back. By the time you return, the guards have found something, or think they have. One brandishes a half-scripted recipe sheet from Brother Physician's hut, holding it like a heretical pamphlet. Brother Physician defends himself with an explanation involving planetary conjunctions, but nobody wants astrology before breakfast. Confessor dismisses the search with a single curt gesture. Enough. The colony will assemble for inspection after prime. He glances skyward where dawn tiptoes across the clouds. Confession hours are suspended until further notice. Suspended confession, a threat disguised as mercy. No absolution, no privacy. Secrets must remain inside heads until they boil over. You marvel again at how power wields silence. Prime concludes in wordless kneeling. When you rise, knees aching, a new task list hangs on the refectory door. Father Confessor's handwriting angled and uncompromising. Your name appears twice, once for scriptorium duty, inventory and incinerate excess parchment, once for escort detail to the cistern with Brother Gilbert. Incinerate excess parchment. That means burn everything unapproved, including psalms, medical notes, perhaps even Sister Ismeen's lace patterns if she uses paper grids. A quiet purge. You meet Gilbert at the scriptorium, a stone-walled room warm from last night's embers. Shelves of scrolls and stitched booklets line the walls. Months of copied scripture, herbals, personal letters we promised to forward one day. Gilbert's face is pale, eyes haunted from graveyard tears. Still, he forces a crooked smile. At least we're trusted with fire, he says. You light a brazier. The first to go are duplicate sermon notes, then Brother Physician's disastrous quicklime formulas. Flames lick ink, curl vellum, release oily smoke that stings eyes. Each sheet feels like a breath being deleted. Gilbert pauses over a slim codex of love poems copied for Sister Juliana before her fever worsened. He hesitates, then slides it under his tunic instead of the fire. Your gaze meets his. He shrugs. Love is contraband worth smuggling. When the brazier is half full of ash, Sister Ismeen slips in, no knock. She deposits a bundle of lace under your arm. Patterns, she whispers. If they torch the originals, I can still work by memory. But I need the counts, not sequences, stitch tallies. You hide the packet behind a loose floor stone beneath the brazier stand. Ash dust sifts down like gray confession. By midday, the scriptorium ranks thinner. Only Father Confessor and the steward remain, checking ledgers. You and Gilbert lug the brazier's glowing embers to the cistern courtyard, where a pit awaits ash disposal. Hot coals hum while summer air drags its feet. You catch Gilbert scanning the wall shadows. No guards. He leans close. "Did they find your letter?" he murmurs. You shake your head. "Hidden." He exhales. "Good. Then we still have a chance." A pause. "I dreamed last night that my hands were whole again." He flexes stiff fingers, half scarred. Hurts more waking. You answer with the only comfort you know. Dreams are the rehearsal. Waking is the performance. Water chores done. You part ways, he to the infirmary, you to kitchen duty. The stew cauldron gurgles weakly. Turnips again, this time without cheese. The child Rorik, newly healthy, sits on a bench outside, waiting for an escort home. You carry him a bowl. He looks smaller than yesterday, shoulders folding inward. "My sister said The letter you wrote might change things, he says, voice low.
It still might, you assure him, though you haven't technically written a second letter.
Rorik traces steam clouds with his spoon. Will you get in trouble? Already am, you grin, then sober. But trouble is the colony's native language. A guard arrives to retrieve the boy. Rorik grabs your wrist. Tell Sister Ismene, keep making lace. You promise. The gate clangs behind him. Silence backfills the courtyard. A silence that feels like losing a candle you hadn't realized was lit. Late afternoon brings heat and flies. You retreat to the infirmary where Sister Juliana drifts between lucid and lost. Fever makes her recite lines from the love poem Kodak's Gilbert hid. My heart is a pilgrim without sandals. You dab her forehead, realize the phrase is perfect for this place. Brother physician bursts in, reeking of camphor, waving a parchment he smuggled past the purge. Diagrams of nerve pathways, borrowed from a traveling Moorish trader years ago. He begs you to recopy them before they're destroyed. We are on the verge of discovery, he insists. You glance at Sister Juliana, then the diagrams. Ink fading, edges brittle. You agree, not for his glory, but because knowledge deserves more than embers.
Sneaking parchment now is high stakes. You choose an unlikely hiding spot. The latrine trench's tool shed, amid shovels and lime sacks. No one loves that corner of the world. You roll the nerve diagrams inside a hollow reed and wedge it under a rotten plank. One more seed planted in dirt. Evening brings the second inspection. Father Confessor enjoys procedure repetition. Everyone lines up outside huts while guards check for new contraband. When they reach your hut, you hold breath. They poke straw, pat walls, peer under the pallet. Nothing. Your mattress hides only ordinary straw. The appeal to Montpellier remains safe under the chicken coop. Relief flickers, but the match flares brighter. Sister Ismane's quarters next. A guard unearths a bundle of lace. He shakes it out. A shower of fine dust drifts. Crushed rose petals Sister uses to scent her work. Confessor frowns. Luxury items unsanctioned. He orders the lace confiscated. Sister Ismene straightens her spine, eyes blazing. Those are trade goods. The colony relies on them. Confessor snatches a sample, examines the intricate pattern. Tiny crosses woven into spirals. Crosses fashioned improperly, he declares, could be taken for occult symbols. He nods. The guard stuffs the lace into a sack bound for the fire. That is the ember tipping point. A murmur ripples down the line. Sister Idonia steps forward, shaking with anger. If you burn her lace, burn our spoons and herbs too. Burn the colony. Brother Anselm joins. You preach salvation, but torch our salvation. Gilbert, fists clenched, adds, and deny confession? What shepherd starves his flock? Father Confessor lifts his hand for silence. Discipline is mercy. I will not debate. He turns to leave. A pebble whistles past his ear, clipping cassock fabric. Everyone freezes. The thrower? Hugo, his bandaged arm still blistered. Mercy tastes like lime, he growls. The guards draw batons. Tension crackles. Confessor's eyes narrow, but he motions restraint. Enough. This colony forgets gratitude. Tomorrow, the bailiff himself will review your status.
Gasps. The bailiff rarely enters. His visit means potential closure or forced relocation. Confessor stalks away, guards following, carrying the lace sack like a trophy. Night bleeds in. Sister Ismene gathers everyone by the well after curfew. Lantern hooded, voices kept to moth-wing hush. We have fewer than 12 hours, she says. If the bailiff decides we're rebellious, he'll order dispersal, chains, wagons, maybe prison. We need leverage. Brother Physician proposes showcasing medical progress. The quicklime burns ironically healed under new salve. Sister Idonia suggests presenting crafts demonstrating economic value. Gilbert argues moral high ground, a psalm recitation proving spiritual devotion. Ideas collide like hailstones. You clear your throat. What if we reveal something the bailiff once kept hidden, something that makes him fear outside scrutiny? Silence. You explain Rorik's letter. Tenant abuses on Lady Evelyn's estate. The bailiff is her cousin and estate manager. If the colony holds written testimonies, shutting you down risks scandal. Sister Ismene nods slowly. We need more than one letter, multiple witnesses, details. She looks at Brother Anselm. You worked the estate's harvest 6 seasons ago. Anselm's shoulders sag. I saw plenty. Whips for slow pickers. Children debt-bound. Document it, she commands. Tonight. A scribal frenzy follows. You fetch scavenged parchment, scraps spared by the purge, backs of abandoned sermons, even margins of medical diagrams. Gilbert recovers the love poem codex, offers blank flyleaves. By lantern light, colonists dictate memories, names, dates, abuses. You chronicle it all, handwriting angling smaller to fit stories within paper borders. Sister Juliana, half awake, whispers from her pallet. They sold a girl's hair to a wig maker. You record that too. By cockcrow, a dossier thicker than a psalter sits on the table. Gilbert fashions a crude cover from goatskin, embosses nothing but a plain lily with a heated spoon, the anonymous benefactor's emblem. Sister Ismene braids 3 strands of thread, wool, hemp, and her own hair, into a seal. Symbolic, strength from diversity, sacrifice, identity. Now, distribution. The dossier must reach someone beyond bailiff clause. Brother Physician suggests a passing pilgrim. Sister Idonia votes messenger fox joke. But courier network there is, the scarlet-gloved sister. If she delivered money once, she can deliver secrets again. You volunteer to slip the dossier through the exchange hatch at dawn, banking on routine commerce before the bailiff arrives. Risk is high. If guards inspect early, you're caught. Yet someone must try. The colony agrees. You tuck the dossier under your cloak, feel its weight like a loaded dice. Dawn glimmers frost pale. The exchange hatch is scheduled to open at terse, but you station yourself nearby under pretense of sweeping. Birds gossip in the hedgerow. Minutes stretch. Finally, hoofbeats. A single rider in burgundy cloak approaches, dismounts at respectable distance. Not the bailiff, too early. The figure raises a gloved hand, scarlet leather. Signal received. The hatch slides. No guards yet. You place the dossier on the ledge, whisper, "For the lily." In return, the gloved hand passes a small tin box and 2 silver pennies. The tin bears no mark. The hand taps twice, pattern identical to last time, then vanishes. Hatch closes. Heart sprinting, you stash the tin in your sleeve and resume sweeping as if straw debris matters more than empire's rot. Moments later, Father Confessor enters the courtyard with bailiff's guards in tow, announcing final preparations. He eyes the broom. Diligence is commendable, he says, but suspicion flickers across his brow. You bow, hide, trembling. By late morning, the bailiff arrives in a creaking carriage painted with Lady Evelyn's crest, a lily entwined with a sword. He steps out wearing perfumed gloves strong enough to gag flies. Father Confessor meets him with exaggerated deference, ushering him to a pavilion hastily erected near the chapel. The inspection begins. Crafts displayed, infirmary toured, kitchen sniffed. All the while, colonists keep straight faces, aware their leverage is galloping down the road in scarlet gloves. At the infirmary, Sister Juliana musters strength to greet the bailiff. He recoils subtly. Perfume can't mask fear. Brother Physician presents Hugo's healing burn as evidence of innovative treatments. The bailiff hums politely, probably already composing a report recommending closure. Mid-tour, a courier on lathered horse arrives, bearing parchment sealed with Lady Eveline's crest. The bailiff's scribe receives it, eyebrows climbing. He interrupts. Urgent dispatch from her ladyship. The bailiff slits the wax, scans the letter. Color drains from his cheeks despite rouge. His eyes flick to the colonists, linger on Sister Ismane's calm stare. He clears his throat, announces an immediate recess, retreats with Father Confessor into the chapel. Whispers ignite. You exchange glances with Gilbert. The dossier reached destination faster than ravens. Inside the chapel, muted argument escalates. Snapped Latin phrases. The bailiff's higher timbre shrill like cracked glass. Eventually, the door opens. Confessor steps out first, expression rigid. The bailiff follows, forcing a smile that doesn't convince his lips. He declares, "Upon review of the colony's industrious contributions and the evident improvement in patient welfare, I find no cause for concern. The colony will continue under existing charter. Furthermore, Lady Eveline donates 20 shillings for supplies." Gasps, then cheers, restrained but jubilant. Father Confessor's jaw flexes. The bailiff adds, "However, stricter record-keeping shall be enforced to preserve public trust." He nods to Confessor, whose eyes promise ledger hell. The carriage departs. Sunlight feels new. Colonists exhale years of tension in one collective sigh. Relief spawns celebration. The steward unlocks a cask of cider long hoarded for last rites emergencies. Cups clink. Sister Ismene retrieves a hidden scrap of lace, starts knotting while humming a pilgrim's chant. Gilbert recites the rescued love poem. Even Brother Physician laughs, though he quickly claims it exercises lungs. You slip away to the orchard, open the tin box received earlier. Inside, 3 folded vellum sheets covered in precise script, a tiny silver stylus, and a note. For the scribe, with thanks. Copy everything twice. 1 set to Montpelier courier, 1 to me.
Burn originals. Signed only with a lily.
You unfold the vellum. It contains anatomical diagrams far superior to the Moorish ones, detailed nerve endings, lesion stages, annotations in Latin and Arabic. Margins instruct on a salve combining chalmugra oil and beeswax, an experimental treatment whispered about in distant ports. Your pulse quickens. This could actually help.
Under the diagrams lies a roster. Names of estate tenants beaten, starved, sold. Hard proof. The Lily benefactor is building a case bigger than your colony.
You realize the war just changed scale. The bailiff's retreat was a skirmish. The real battle will be fought in chancery courts and bishop councils with ink as blade. And you, reluctant scribe, have been drafted.
Night slips over orchard leaves like ink over parchment. You return to the workshop, lantern raised. Sister Ismene awaits, already guessing. Together you spread the vellum beneath lamplight. She touches the diagrams, hope flickering in her tired eyes. We copy tonight, she says. Tomorrow, medicine begins. Exhaustion tugs, yet purpose propels. You sharpen quills, mix fresh ink, scented with myrrh, and write. Pen scratches rhythm with cicada song outside. Around you, colony dreams of cider and reprieve. Unaware, another crucible forms. Just before dawn, hands cramped, you complete both duplicate sets. You seal one with wax and lily emblem, store it in the tin. The other you roll into a reed, hide beside the nerve diagrams under the latrine shed board. Originals you feed to the brazier until flame turns knowledge into secrecy. Sunrise again creeps uncertainly across shutter slats. You stretch, bones popping, marvel how a place of exclusion can birth revolutions. Outside the window, the owl, faithful night witness, takes flight into paling sky. Wind buffets the chapel shutters so hard you half expect stained glass to shatter, yet inside the refectory, the only thing trembling is your quill. The new ledger Father Confessor issued at dawn sits open in front of you. Virgin parchment, margins ruled with crimson ink, categories pre-inscribed in his own hand. Name, extent of lesions, daily labor output, transgressions, penances, space for nothing else. No poetry, no notes on experimental salves, no observations of joy. Just disease, utility, guilt. You dip the quill, but instead of recording Sister Idonia's attendance, you write a tiny, invisible dot of ink in each corner of the page. 4 compass points. Quiet rebellion. Then you turn the sheet and begin in earnest, weaving coded flourishes into every first letter, so the column of initials will later read Amor vincit, love conquers. Behind you, benches scrape. Colonists file past, offering the small courtesies you all devised overnight to keep spirits from collapsing. 2 fingers to heart, slight nod, a ghost of a smile. Little sparks in the windstorm. Sister Ismene arrives last, cheeks ruddy from cold water and clandestine knitting. She hands you a scrap of linen embroidered with 3 knots, your silent signal that the chalmugra salve is ready for trials. You tuck the cloth beneath the ledger's flyleaf. Confessor's ledger shielding contraband hope. Irony so thick it could stop arrows. He himself enters moments later, cloak snapping like a banner. You feel the temperature in the hall drop. He inspects the column headings, fingers resting on transgressions. Order requires vigilance, he says, rather to the room than to you. Discipline will save your souls where medicine cannot. Then he leaves again, robes smacking doorposts like reprimands. Gilbert slips onto the bench across from you, whisper laughing. Discipline saves souls? He should try soap. It works wonders. You snort, almost ruin the ledger with an ink blot, which would surely count as a sacrilege. The first salve test happens in the infirmary under charcoal lamps. Sister Juliana lies motionless on the straw pallet, fever turning her skin to parchment. Brother physician rolls up his sleeves, revealing flaking patches along his elbows. He warms the tin box between his palms as though it contains sunlight. You unscrew the lid. The salve is pale gold, smelling of honey and distant forests. Gilbert reads aloud the Lily benefactor's instructions. Apply to lesions twice daily with feather-soft brush. Observe for sensation, color change, discharge. Straightforward enough, except none of you has the faintest clue how the compound might react. Might it sting? Might it poison? No time for luxury of certainty. Physician dips a cotton swab, dabs Juliana's eroded cheek. She exhales, a flutter, nothing more. But her brow unfurrows a fraction, as if the salve whispers lullabies. You treat 2 lesions on her forearm, whispering psalm fragments for steadiness. When finished, you cover her with wool and mark the time on a hidden record sheet, not in confessor's ledger. Second subject, Hugo's burn scars. He volunteers, rolling back his sleeve. The skin there is pink and puckered, but no longer raw. You paint the salve across ridges. Hugo flinches at first touch, then shakes his head. Cool, he murmurs, surprised. Cool like creek water. A good omen. The final subject shocks everyone. Father Confessor himself. He appears at the infirmary doorway, face unreadable, left hand wrapped in a stained kerchief. I sustained a knife nick when last I visited the bailiff, he says. Your physician may dress it, so long as the treatment is canonical. Canonical? You and physician exchange glances. To refuse could doom the entire endeavor. To comply means revealing the salve, and if it works, confessor controls the narrative. Still, you nod, gesture to a stool. Confessor sits stiffly. Removing the kerchief reveals an angry slice along his palm, already showing early white flecks, a possible infection. Gilbert's voice fails him. Physician clears his throat. We have acquired an unorthodox remedy, but ingredients are natural. Chalmugra nut, beeswax, a dash of myrrh. Confessor eyes the tin. Proceed. You clean the wound, then smooth salve along the cut. Confessor sucks air, but otherwise betrays nothing. He rewraps the hand himself, stands. I will monitor results personally. He meets your gaze. Something in his eyes has shifted. Curiosity? Fear? He leaves without another word. Gilbert exhales loudly. If that heals clean, we will never see the end of penance forms. But you are thinking of leverage. A healed confessor is beholden to the colony, unless he claims divine intervention instead of science. You'll need witnesses, documentation, replication. Afternoon brings the supply caravan, the first since bailiff's surprising donation. 2 wagons rattling under barrels and sacks, escorted by 4 grim soldiers. The driver, a nervous youth, hands the steward an inventory scroll. You help unload rye flour, smoked eels, lamp oil, and, most startling, reams of parchment sealed with Lady Evelyn's crest. Officially, the parchment is for accurate record-keeping, but everyone understands the underlying message: write, expose, safeguard. Under the piles of parchment, you find a wooden crate nailed shut. Carved on its lid is that familiar plain lily. Heart-hammering, you pry it open. Inside, glass measuring vials, mortar and pestle, bundles of parchment labeled in Arabic script, and a book, yes, an actual bound book, titled Al-Qanun fi al-Tib, the Canon of Medicine. Translated marginal notes in neat Latin accompany each chapter. A treasure chest of knowledge smuggled across borders into a leper colony. Brother physician gasps louder than he did the day he first saw quicklime cure warts at a fair. Avicenna here, he whispers. We are blessed. You transfer the crate to the scriptorium under cover of accounting duty. New clandestine protocol emerges. Ismene will weave false bottoms into supply barrels for future shipments. Gilbert will write a ciphered correspondence summarizing medical results. You will produce 2 copies of every finding, one secret, one sanitized for confessors' eyes. But first, someone must translate the Arabic margins properly. None of you reads Arabic beyond numerals. Luckily, Colony Rumor remembers that the coffin maker, Theo, spent 6 years with a Moorish caravan before lesions drove him here. You locate him beside the stables, fitting a pony's hoof with a makeshift shoe. At first mention of translation, he shakes his head. I pledged never again to lift pen for the world that abandoned me. You show him Juliana's frail arm, dotted with salved hope. Show him Hugo's less angry burns. Describe Confessor's hidden infection. Theo's resolve thaws. I'll read, he sighs, but not for your Father Firebrand. I read for the bleeding. Good enough. Nightfall drapes the colony in brittle hush. You convene in the orchard again. Ismene, physician, Gilbert, Theo, and you. Lantern muffled, book pages rustling. Theo traces the Arabic letters with reverence. This chapter, he murmurs, describes nerve decay similar to what we suffer, though Avicenna attributes it to black bile and divine imbalance. Gilbert frowns. Divine imbalance? Like sin? Like cosmos, Theo corrects. Stars, humors, the body's provinces. But he prescribes chalmugra pulp mixed with clarified honey, applied daily until sensation returns. He reads more, translating dosage into drams. Physician's eyes gleam. Ismene listens while knitting for memory. Then she raises a separate scroll. Sworn testimonies from estate tenants continue streaming via Lily Courier. Some speak of hidden graves, forced labor, a pox spread intentionally to cull costs. The dossier grows fat as goose down. With each testimony, Lady Evelyn's leverage against her cousin cements, and your colony's role as archivist of injustice deepens. A fox yips beyond the wall. You all freeze. Footsteps crunch. A shadow lurches between apple trunks. It is Hugo, panting. Guards, he whispers, coming to confiscate night lanterns. You hide the book under your tunic, heavy, angular, sacred. Ismene extinguishes the lamp with gloved fingers. Everyone melts into branches like ghosts of prior harvests. Guards pass, muttering, smelling of ale. When they are gone, hearts crawl back into chests. You decide orchard councils are no longer safe. Brother Physician suggests the ossuary, stone crypt beneath the chapel, where old bones sleep in clay niches. No guard lingers there. Meeting adjourned until tomorrow's midnight. Morning 3 of the salve trials. Juliana's fever has broken. Her lesions weep clear fluid instead of yellow. She drinks broth without trembling. Physician scribbles notes faster than rosary beads can clack. Hugo's burn scars fade to soft rose. Sensation returning around the edges. He yelps when you prod with a quill tip. Father Confessor shows up precisely at sext. He unwraps his hand. The cut is sealed by a thin, transparent film. No redness. His eyes widen before he schools them to indifference. "Adequate," he says. "You will prepare enough of this remedy for the entire colony. Give me the recipe." Physician bows. "Of course, we shall provide a statement for the diocesan infirmary as well." Confessor nods, but suspicion lingers. He leaves with purposeful stride, clutching his healed hand, as though unsure whether to thank or condemn it. Later, you intercept Gilbert slipping toward the gate with a folded note, not lily-marked. "What's that?" He hesitates. "A petition to the Archbishop. If Confessor claims credit for our work, we counter with witness affidavits. Insurance." You sigh. So many letters now circle these walls like carrier pigeons chasing breadcrumbs. By week's end, the salve stocks run low. You need more chalmugra, but the nut grows oceans away. Ismene proposes bargaining with the Jewish spice merchant who sometimes supplies frankincense. Confessor forbids direct contact. So you draft another plea to the Lily Network. Theo translates it into elegant Arabic script flourish, both as disguise and in hopes that merchants along the route will sympathize. During Vespers, while the organ's wheeze covers noise, you and Hugo slip the letter into the exchange hatch. Moments later, the scarlet-gloved courier retrieves it and passes back a pouch of silver dust, likely quicksilver for physician's tinctures, and a folded scrap reading, "Supply convoy due fortnight. Maintain faith." Faith you can do. Fortnight you can survive. Probably. Fortnight minus 2 days. A traveling minstrel duo knocks seeking shelter. Confessor wants to turn them away, fear of contamination, but bailiff's edict mandates demonstrating charity. The minstrels, Lena and Dorian, share songs for supper. Ballads of star-crossed queens, comical tales of fishmongers courting mermaids. The colony sways, claps, stumps, and whole hands alike. Even Confessor smiles thinly. Afterward, the duo trades news from the road. Plague scare in the south, war tax uprisings to the west, and rumor that Lady Eveline's cousin, the bailiff, faces an ecclesiastical inquiry regarding property mismanagement and corporal abuses. The colony sits straighter. Father Confessor excuses himself early. The minstrel's words peel paint off his composure. That night, Confessor confiscates all quills until further notice. You expected something. You did not expect him to post a guard at the scriptorium door.
Penless scribes are tongues torn out.
But Theo still owns charcoal, Ismene still owns thread, and you still own memory. Gilbert jokes, let the record reflect. Ink may dry, but gossip bleeds forever.
Midnight meeting in the ossuary. Lanterns muted behind skull alcoves, the air redolent of dust and incense memories. Juliana, astonishingly, walks in under her own power, thin as a reed but upright. Collective gasp. She smiles, tearful. Heard a pigeon tonight, she says. Thought it was heaven calling. You log her progress. Pinch yourself to believe it.
Agenda. How to copy new testimonies without quills. Theo proposes reed pens dipped in wine will tint faintly. Ismene reveals a secret stash of indigo dye extracted from woad leftover. Physician volunteers beetroot juice. Gilbert retches at thought of writing with dinner. In the end, you fashion pens from chicken feathers and lamplight soot mixed with vinegar. The resulting ink is smoky, but legible. Next, expansion of salve production. Beeswax supply limited. Ismene suggests rendering tallow from goat fat. Physician protests smell. Compromise. Blend small beeswax core with tallow outer shell. Store in pottery. Sister Juliana offers to oversee. Her recovery becomes proof the process works. Hope spreads faster than infection ever did. Finally, contingency if confessor discovers Arabic texts. Theo will claim heresy infiltration, volunteer to destroy them publicly, but actually swap in forged pages filled with psalms. The real canon and diagrams will move to ossuary niche sealed behind St. Roch's reliquary, patron of plague victims, perfect camouflage. You mentally tag the plan Operation Bone Scroll. Meeting adjourns with shared draught of watered cider. You return to hut under star-tattered sky, hearing distant wolves. Tomorrow's dawn already scrapes horizon. The next day begins with horn blasts. Guards everywhere. Confessor summons colony to courtyard. Behind him stands a stranger in velvet doublet, bearing a papal-style ring. This, confessor announces, is Inquisitor Mauro, appointed by diocesan council to inspect doctrinal integrity and ensure remedies do not stray into sorcery. Cold panic spreads. You glance at Theo, he pales. Operation Bone Scroll skipped rehearsal. Inquisitor Mauro carries a satchel heavy with wax seals and a smile sharp as tacks. He begins interviewing colonists one by one, recording answers on his own parchment, so quills are allowed, just not yours. When your turn arrives, he motions you into the chapel. His first question, have you translated forbidden texts? You swallow. I copy only what nourishes bodies and souls. Not a lie, but hinges dangerously on his definition of nourishment. He quizzes you on salve ingredients. You list them, omitting Chalmugra's exotic origins. He accepts, maybe noting your tremor. He then asks, do you believe disease is punishment for sin? You catch Father Confessor watching from the doorway. Trap. If you say yes, you condemn every patient as sinner. If no, you contradict doctrinal teaching. You decide on poetry. I believe suffering is a road. Sin is one traveler, ignorance another. But not every traveler is the same. Mauro tilts his head, scribbles. Inspection lasts 2 days.
He confiscates 4 personal diaries, fines brother physician for astrological marginalia, and orders any Arabic script surrendered. Theo submits decoy pages from Operation Bone Scroll. Morrow flames them over a brazier, satisfied. But bigger peril emerges. Inquisitor demands demonstration of salve efficacy under controlled conditions. He selects 5 random patients, including Sister Juliana, Hugo, and, pointedly, Father Confessor's own hand. Over the next week, he will record progress, comparing to untreated lesions on volunteers denied the salve. Human experimentation at its rawest. Confessor objects to being test subject, but Morrow overrules him. What heals the shepherd may heal the flock. You sense humiliation curdling inside Confessor, might explode unpredictably. Trial week, day 1. Salve group shows mild improvement. Control group already laments pain. Morrow documents with detached fascination. Theo covertly translates Avicenna's dosage notes to adjust application. You smuggle instructions via Ismeni's lace baskets. Control group begins plotting mutiny. No surprise. Trial week, day 3. Juliana stands unaided, color returning. Confessor's cut now faint pink line. Hugo resumes stable chores, lifts bales with newly sensitive fingers. Meanwhile, control group's lesions worsen, fevers rise. Physician begs Morrow to end trial early. Morrow refuses until statistical clarity reached. Ethics quiver. Brother Anselm, assigned to control cohort, develops secondary infection. Nighttime, he sneaks to infirmary, begging for salve. You face Sophie's choice. Treat and risk skewing trial, or obey Inquisitor. You treat him. Oath outranks statistics. Next morning, lesions already calm. Anselm lies at review, claiming unexpected remission. Morrow narrows eyes, but cannot prove sabotage. Day 7. Results unequivocal. Salve works. Morrow drafts a report praising the colony's resourcefulness, but insists formula be shipped to diocesan labs and production here cease until purity verified. Essentially, he just nationalized your cure. Confessor looks triumphant, control regained through higher authority. That night, ossuary council convenes under candle no bigger than finger. Joy and fury wrestle in every face. You saved lives only to watch Inquisition bottleneck the miracle. Ismene proposes doubling production in secret. Physician worries about ingredients. Theo suggests weaponizing testimony dossier. Threaten to expose diocesan confiscation amid estate abuses. Gilbert smirks. Blackmail wearing angel wings. You volunteer to draft the ultimatum. It must be elegant, irrefutable, hint of apocalypse. You dip soot ink, write until wrist creaks. To whomever would shackle mercy in the name of order, flesh will remember what parchment forgets. If the salve is withheld, graves will bloom not just here, but under your own cloister walls. And the names on the stones will whisper who chose silence. Release the remedy. Let the lilies grow where blood once fell. You sign it with a single stitched knot of thread, courtesy of Ismene. Tomorrow it goes out with courier. And this time, the colony is ready for consequences. Outside, dawn rustles crows from cedar boughs. You pocket the ultimatum, head toward the gate.
But halfway across the yard, you stop dead. Father Confessor waits by the exchange hatch, bandaged hand resting on the wooden sill. He looks almost gentle in early light. Without turning, he says, "I know about the fox burrow under the elderberry. I know about the straw ink codes." He flexes healed fingers. "I also know what this salve means." Fear spikes, but he turns, eyes unexpectedly soft. My hand feels alive. First time in years. He pauses. I was sent to manage sin. Perhaps I must instead manage salvation. He places a small parcel on the sill, chalmugra seeds, unmistakable. Plant these, grow your own supply. You swallow. What about the Inquisitor? He leaves tomorrow. Confessor smiles faintly. His report already filed. No mention of extra seeds. Consider it our secret penance. He walks away, cloak gliding like dusk at sunrise. You stand stunned, parcel warm as heartbeats. Just when you think villains have hardened into statues, they sprout unexpected wings. You slip the ultimatum into your tunic, anyway, insurance. But hope buds alongside fear. At garden plot behind the infirmary, you and Juliana kneel, fingers buried in soil, pressing foreign seeds into unfamiliar earth. Juliana hums the mermaid ballad from the minstrels. Bees wander between clover blooms. Life incests. Moonlight silvers every dew-beaded leaf in the infirmary garden, but you can't spare a glance at the beauty because a wheelbarrow full of steaming goat tallow is skidding toward your shins. Juliana, yes, the same Juliana who could barely raise her head a week ago, is barreling downhill with giddy abandon, half laughing, half shouting, "Hot fat coming through!" She pitches the load beside the soap-shed hearth, where Ismene already has beeswax melting in a copper cauldron. Thick smoke tangles with the jasmine that insists on blooming even here, even now. Hope, apparently, is as stubborn as leprosy. Inside the shed, your new production line looks equal parts apothecary and battlefield. Feather quill thermometers jab from earthenware pots, gauging temperature the way soldiers gauge enemy positions. Gilbert mans the grinding stone, reducing chalmugra seeds to a pale, oily paste that smells like pine and pepper mixed together. Every few minutes he pauses to shake cramps from his rests and mutter insults at Inquisitor Mauro, already 2 days down the road, but still haunting your collective nerves. Brother Physician has commandeered a splintered trestle table, turning it into a makeshift quality control station. One tray displays Cohort A, salve cast in beeswax molds, honey amber and glossy. Beside it sits Cohort B, the new tallow blend bars, duller, waxy gray, but 10 times the yield. He jots observations with a reed pen dipped in soot ink. Half the soot ends up on his nose, making him look like a distracted chimney sweep. You're at the far end, folding little packets of linen for distribution. On each square you stitch a single lily in green thread, the colony's secret hallmark, while listening for footsteps outside. Father Confessor posted a lone watchman by the chapel door for optics. But optics shift like dunes. You keep bracing for another surprise inspection. Instead, there's only the slow heart thud of night cicadas and the occasional snore from the dormitories. At matins, when torches hiss against damp stone and the rest of the world still sleeps, Father Confessor calls a clandestine council in the ossuary.
It's the first time he's descended here since his appointment months ago, and he looks uneasy among skull niches and saintly dust. Yet he kneels without prompting, and not in front of relics, but in front of you 4 conspirators. His bandaged hand presses the floor. "I owe this colony more than sermons," he says. "Teach me the method. I will copy it in my own scripture, so that should my superiors question again, they question me first."
Silence expands. You feel Gilbert's disbelief radiate like heat. But Juliana steps forward, lays her newly healed palm on Confessor's good shoulder. "Welcome to the rebellion," she whispers. And just like that, the colony gains an unlikely 5th conspirator. You spend the dark hours schooling him, how long to render tallow, the ratio of nut paste to wax, how to judge efficacy by lesion color. He listens, nods, occasionally interjects with practical suggestions, recording anointing prayers that double as dosage counts, blessing the vats to disguise the chemical smell. If the bishop insists on miracles, he muses, let us give him miracles meticulously documented. Before dispersing, you pull out the ultimatum letter, still unsigned, unsent. You hand it to him. "If you can shield us without this, burn it," you say. "But if the diocese clamps down again, release it." Confessor traces the lily knot with his thumb and tucks the parchment inside his breviary. An unspoken pact. Sunrise is soft apricot. The convoy from Lady Eveline rolls in sooner than expected. 1 wagon this time, pulled by a mule that looks older than half your patience. The driver, however, is new, a wiry woman named Maris, with hair braided in iron-gray coils and a smile too sly for comfort. She claims the usual credentials, flashes the lily seal, but Theo's eyes narrow. He murmurs in Arabic. Her dialect is coastal. The usual couriers are desert folk. You file that worry away while unloading crates. Coarse salt, smoked river fish, blank parchment, praise be, and, hidden under straw, 2 casks banded in red lacquer. Labels scratchy but unmistakable. Oleum serpentinum, handle with care. Snake oil? No. Theo translates for you. Serpentine oil is what Moorish physicians call mineral turpentine, solvent for extracting plant alkaloids. Exactly what physician dreamed of for purifying chalmugra extract. The crate also contains glass retorts and a copper alembic. Somebody at Evelyn's estate has been listening closely. Yet still the unease. Who exactly is Maris, and why the change? She winks at Ismene while accepting a bowl of goat stew, but offers no more than travel gossip. Later, Theo corners you by the well. Her ring, he says, bears a sigil of House Orsini. That family bankrolls the bailiff's new legal team. A spy in lily clothing, of course. You warn Confessor. He dispatches Maris with polite efficiency. Your goods are blessing enough. The colony will not detain you. She bows, but her eyes scour the courtyard, counting faces, doors, patterns. When she leaves, relief settles like snowfall. The next crisis rides in before dusk. Brother Matteo arrives from a neighboring lazaretto 30 miles east, face sunken, robes caked with dust. He collapses at the gate, bearing 2 scrolls dappled with blood. Physician recognizes him, former classmate at the university. You drag Matteo into the infirmary, treat his cracked lips with honey water. He wheezes the story. A fever epidemic swept his colony, something swift, not leprosy. Supplies vanished. Bailiff soldiers barricaded the doors, forbidding exit lest fever spread. Patients died, staff died. Matteo escaped through the latrine trench. He rode 2 nights to warn you. Bailiff's militia has orders to contain outbreaks by starvation if needed. And there's rumor they'll fold your colony into that nightmare. Combine rations, fewer mouths, easier oversight. Fear flicks through you like sparks on dry grass. Father Confessor hears the news, jaw clenches. Then we carry our cure beyond these walls before they seal them, he says. Plans tumble forth. Dispatch couriers to the coast. Charter a fishing sloop. Move salve and seed lines to safe havens. But first, you need proof of efficacy that no tribunal can dismiss. That means controlled dissemination, healing beyond colony boundaries so witnesses proliferate. Gilbert volunteers to ride north to the Pilgrim Hospice. Juliana insists on going too. Who better living testimony than walking miracle? Physician drafts portable dosages in beeswax-coated vials. Ismene sews secret pockets in their cloaks. Departure dawn is frantic. Packets, parchments, farewell hugs. Confessor anoints each forehead. When he reaches Gilbert, their history as sparring ideologues yields a hesitant grin. Confessor murmurs, "Discipline may save souls, but so does laughter. Bring both." Gilbert's reply, "If laughter fails, I'll weaponize puns." He mounts the mule, yes, Maris's borrowed mule, renamed Providence, and clops away under thinning stars. You watch until dust swallows the silhouettes. That same afternoon, Theo decodes a fresh bundle of testimonies from Evelyn's tenants. Among mundane grievances, he finds a line that chills blood. Bailiff petitioned for writ of quarantine expansion, including moon-marked farmstead at Western Marsh. Moon-marked, your colony's nickname among locals because Chapel Weathervane bears a crescent. Expansion means takeover. They're coming. You convene emergency assembly in the refectory. Confessor stands at the head, but this time he's not barking scripture. He's splaying a crude map. Red pins mark watchtowers, interior caches of salve, hidden exits, some you never knew existed. The old crypt tunnel leading under the orchard wall, the culvert behind goat pens. If militia arrives, he says, we scatter in cells. Each cell carries enough medicine and seed to restart elsewhere. Rendezvous points, the Pilgrim Hospice, the Cliff Hermitage, Lady Evelyn's estate. He pauses, voice tightening. We pray it's unnecessary, but prayer without plan is simply noise. Juliana isn't here to nod. Already on the road. Ismene raises a hand. What of the ossuary archives? We can't haul bones. Confessor glances at you. Time to reveal Operation Bone Scroll's final safeguard. The Arab text and your research copies, now inked onto parchment so thin it can fold to palm size, pressed inside hollowed femur reliquaries. Those bones travel with each cell disguised as saint fragments. Gilbert called it macabre genius. Confessor's eyebrows climb. You people, he mutters, would outfox the devil in his own burrow. 2 nights later, the lookout bell tolls thrice. Riders approaching. Not militia, only one banner. You and Theo scale the gate tower. Torchlight illuminates Lady Evelyn herself, astride a dapple mare, cloak embroidered with lilies. Behind her, 2 servants bear chests. When gates open, she dismounts, ignoring Confessor's offered blessing, straight to business.
Inside the chapel, she reveals her chests, one brimming with silver coins, the other with ledgers stamped by a royal notary. The bailiff is cornered, she says. Ecclesiastical inquiry plus tenant affidavits forced him to pledge restitution. I negotiated relocation of willing colonists to my seaside hamlet, where air is kinder. She glances around the nave, cracked plaster, moldy hymnals. Or you may remain here under my stewardship. No more militia. Her eyes pierce confessor, provided your records confirm no sorcery. A collective sigh. Relief. Disbelief. Suspicion swirl. Physician presents Avicenna excerpts, sanitized Latin translations. Confessor adds his journal, meticulous conversions of dosage into psalm count. Evelyn's steward copies seals approvingly. But her offer divides you. Some colonists dream of waves and white gulls. Others cling to orchard roots. You yourself feel torn. Leave with the cure to safer ground, or guard the seed you planted here? Eveline gives you 3 dawns to decide. She departs as quickly as she came, promising to send barges upriver by week's end. When gates shut behind her, Father Confessor exhales like a man dropping a boulder. Better angels, he whispers, might be winning. You wish you shared his certainty. At Compline, thunderheads bruise the horizon. The garden smells of wet loam and rebellion. You kneel beside tiny chalmugre sprouts, miraculously green. One leaf bears a bead of rain, trembling like liquid glass. You pluck it, tuck it into your ledger as bookmark, a future chapter waiting to be written. Overhead, lightning forks silently, no thunder yet. That's when the first scream rips across the courtyard. You vault upright, heart sprinting. From the dormitory bursts Brother Leon, face blotched crimson, eyes wild. Fever, he rasps, like Mateo's colony. He collapses. Panic ricochets. You and physician drag Leon to infirmary. Temperature off the chart, pulse racing. No lesions, this is something new. Physician searches Avicenna notes, descriptions of fire wind fevers treatable with willow bark, cool compresses, isolation. You dispatch novice runners, collect bark, ice from mountain cave, clean water. Within an hour, 6 more fall sick, including 2 children. Fear claws deeper. Was the fever smuggled by Mateo? By Maris? By Evelyn's chests? Unknown, but it's here. Confessor rings chapel bell non-stop, declaring full quarantine. Militia you feared might now be summoned by your own distress. The colony divides. Caretakers suit up in waxed canvas aprons. Healthy sequester in chapel. You volunteer for infirmary shift. Physician hands you diluted serpentine oil, experimental antipyretic. Could burn skin, he warns. Test on your own wrist first. You do. Sting like nettles. Redness fades. Good enough. You swab Leon's forearm. He moans, but shortly his fever dips a fraction. Small victory. Lightning finally booms. Rain falls in sheets, drumming rooftops, overflow carving rivulets through courtyard. Thunder drowns moans for a blessed minute. Then new wail. Sister is Maine, clutching her stomach, collapsing among knitting baskets. Fever spreading faster than salve ever did. Midnight. Juliana should be at hospice by now. You pray roads keep her safe from this storm, literal and microbial. Dawn limps into gray drizzle. 10 patients burn, 2 unconscious. Supplies thin. Worse, the quarantine bell draws outsiders. A small squad of bailiff militia on horseback arrives mid-morning, claiming authority to secure perimeter. Confessor meets them at gate, brandishing Lady Evelyn's signed decree. Captain sneers. Paper dries in rain. Orders stand. They pitch camp outside, torches like hungry eyes. Inside, you and physician fight hour by hour. Serpentine oil reduces fevers but triggers coughing fits. Willow bark tea calms some. Theo concocts ginger honey syrup for throat relief. You scarcely rest, scrawl notes in soot ink between patients' beds. On third evening, Leon's fever breaks. He opens crusted eyes, whispers, "Hear the bell? Sounds different." You listen. Chapel bell tolls steady 6 beats. Confessor's code for rendezvous now. You slip from infirmary, sidestep puddles to ossuary door. Inside, lanterns reveal small assembly. Confessor, Theo, physician, debilitated Ismain propped on stool, and 2 strangers in sodden cloaks, Gilbert and Juliana, returned early, their faces grim. Juliana speaks first. Hospice refused entry once they mentioned fever. Pilgrims riot in courtyard. Rumors blame lepers for plague, violence brewing. They fled home to warn you. Gilbert adds, roadblocks every mile. Bailiff's men scouring for smugglers. We barely slipped through side lanes. Confessor clenches healed hand. We stand at crossroads. Stay under siege by fever and militia, or scatter tonight under storm cover. Evelyn's barges expected day after tomorrow, if blockade lets them. He turns to you. You know colony trails best. Can you lead a cart of medicine past militia lines? Plan forms. Use crypt tunnel under orchard wall, through elderberry thicket to marsh path, then east to river landing. Load cart with salve vats, serpentine oil, seeds, archives. Small team. You, Theo, translator, physician, Juliana, living proof. Confessor will remain to negotiate with militia, buy time. Ismene coughs protest. She wants to go, but fever grips her. You kneel, promise to plant lilies wherever you reach. Promise to send boat back for survivors. She presses a half-knitted scarf into your hands, pattern of lilies and crescent moons. Wrap the vials, she rasps. Midnight departure. Rain slackens to mist. You roll medicine cart along corridor lit by stubby candles. At crypt threshold you pause. Touch bone reliquaries. Saints guarding secrets. Confessor whispers blessing. May the thread of mercy outlast the blade of fear. He pulls lever hidden in wall. Stone slab grinds open, revealing tunnel maw. One last look at colony. Torchlit windows, silhouettes moving, bell rope swaying. You wonder if you'll ever walk these halls again. Tunnel ceiling drips, smells of earth and forgotten hymns. You guide cart by lantern glow, wheels crunching gravel. Theo clutches Avicenna tome under cloak. Juliana hums mermaid ballad softly. Physician mutters dosages like prayer beads. At the far end, a rusted grate yields to crowbar. You emerge into elderberry thicket, night air moist, freedom tasting of damp leaves.
Behind bushes glow militia torches, but on opposite side of colony. Your route holds. You push into reeds, reach marsh path where frogs sing oblivious. Cart mudbound, but you shoulder crates 2 by 2. Hours later, first light smudges sky pink. River whispers ahead. Then hoofbeats, single rider on ridge. You freeze. Lantern glints on velvet cloak. Maris. She reins in, surveys marsh. When she spots you, she raises hand, not to draw sword, but to signal hush. She dismounts, approaches. Told them you'd take Chapel Tunnel, she says low. I diverted patrol east, go. She tosses small pouch, silver, travel papers bearing House Orsini seal. Bailiff thinks me loyal, let's both disappoint him.
Why? You ask with eyes. She shrugs. My brother died in Mateo's colony. Pain flickers. Your cure might save others. Then she turns, remounts, vanishes into fog.
You exhale tremor. Load cart onto dilapidated dock. Tie crates into fishing scow abandoned by poachers. Theo unfurls sail patchworked by Ismini last month. Lilies on mooncloth. Dawn wind billows it. You push off. On shore, marsh grass whispers. Somewhere behind, chapel bell tolls again. Can't tell if alarm or farewell. River current catches hull, pulling you toward rising sun. Salve tins clink like distant bells. Seeds rustle like promises. Ahead, Evelyn's barges, or blockade, or sea monsters of rumor, you've no clue. But water carries, and stories too. Mist lifts off the river in ragged sheets, and your patched-up sail snaps with a sound like distant musket fire, enough to kick every half-formed nightmare out of your skull. Morning sun ignites the fog from within, turning the whole valley into a bowl of molten silver. Somewhere behind that glow, the leper colony still stands, or limps, or prays, or burns, no way to know now. All you can do is keep the bow pointed downstream and pretend the ache in your arms is just excitement rather than terror wearing a clever mask. Juliana crouches at the prow, hood down, face tilted to the breeze. Her regrown eyebrows, thin as willow catkins, bounce every time she spots driftwood and shouts a warning. Theo mans the tiller, muttering Arabic star chants even though stars are long gone. Brother Physician straddles the mid-bench, cradling a crate of reliquary bones like a newborn, afraid a sudden jolt might jostle the scrolls hidden in the femurs. You handle the oars, mostly to keep panic occupied. The river widens, current quickens. Banks trade marsh grass for poplars whose roots bite the water like thirsty wolves. Every so often, a branch reaches low enough to brush your sail, sprinkling yesterday's rain across your back. Little stings so cold they feel hot. But the real hazard isn't foliage, it's people. Somewhere ahead, blockade patrols scan both banks for smugglers, heretics, and suspicious freight. Your boat is practically a floating signboard that reads, "Contraband Hope, half price while supplies last." You ordered everyone to ditch colony robes, but stigma clings like onion breath. Juliana's hands still show telltale scars. Physician's gait broadcasts years of joint damage. You taped bandages under sleeves, practiced pilgrim trader accents, rehearsed a cover story, rare medicinal resin bound for Lady Evelyn's apothecary. It even contains a shred of truth, which is either reassuring or frightening. Hard to decide. Ahead, the river hooks left. Theo tugs the tiller, and the sail bellies in protest. Around the bend, a low stone quay appears, barely more than a tumble of boulders and a post for mooring barges. 2 pikes gleam beside a cook fire, sentries. A log boom stretches across the water, chained to a sandbar. That'll be the blockade.
Juliana clicks her tongue. Better angels, my foot!
You douse the sail, ship the oars, and let momentum drift you toward the east bank, out of sight. There's a backwater inlet where the current curls under a knot of willow roots. You nose the scow into shadow, tie off, and convene a hasty war council among reeds buzzing with dragonflies. Physician sketches a map in mud with a twig, quay, boom, patrol path. His plan is pure academia, complex, improbable, and reliant on precise Latin pronunciations of diseases no soldier has time to verify. Theo counters with a merchant's pragmatism. Bribe the guards, slip fake ledgers stamped with Orsini seal. Juliana suggests something bolder. Cut the chain. Simple, direct, loud. Storm last month left half the boom underwater, she says. A strong push and a prayer might send the barrier downstream. She pulls a curved goat shearing blade from her boot. Hardly a cutlass, but enthusiasm counts.
All eyes turn to you. Leader by accident, again. You weigh risks. Bribery leaves evidence. Scholarly deception collapses if one guard paid attention during seminary. Sabotage? That's irreversible. Once you sever that chain, bailiff's wrath will be immediate, but it buys you a clear run to Eveline's barges. After that, who cares if soldiers fume on a deserted quay?
Cut it, you decide. We leave nothing for them to quarantine.
Twilight bleeds in by the time you ease back into the current. The plan: drift close under false moonlight, silent as moss. Juliana perched on prow, ready to leap onto the chain. Theo has procured a jug of lamp oil, that gift from Maris, the spy-turned-ally. If brute force fails, fire eats wood faster than goat shears slice rope.
The river hushes like a conspirator. Sentries chat by the cook fire, spears grounded, helmets tipped back to sip sour wine. One tunes a bone flute, hitting notes so flat even frogs cringe. Your scow slides nearer, hull inches from the boom's upstream side. Juliana hooks her knees over the gunwale, blade between teeth, eyes glittering. Crash! Oar hits a submerged log. Water thuds. Flute stops. 2 helmets pivot your direction, silhouettes against flame. Juliana launches anyway. Splash, climb, hack. Blade flashes, wood fibers scream. One guard raises a crossbow, but Theo stands, pitches the oil jug. It arcs, smashes against the cook fire. Flames roar up the soldiers' leg guards, smoke blinding. Crossbow bolt flies wild. Second guard lunges for the water bucket, trips on discarded helm. Chaos blossoms. Juliana's 4th swing bites through chain wrap. She shouts, "Push!" You and Physician heave oars. The scow's prow shoves boom segment. Cracked timber groans, slides. Momentum yanks remaining linkages. Entire barrier twists downstream, tearing free of sandbar and, blessed saints, dragging half the quay into the river. Guards scramble, sputter, curse. One wades chest deep after the boom, knocked aside by current, vanishes with an undignified yelp.
Your scow spins into open channel, sail unfurls, wind catches. Juliana clutches the prow beam like a triumphant figurehead, drenched but grinning. Boom debris clatters against hull as you speed away.
Behind, flames engulf the abandoned cook-fire shelter, smoke column marking your rebellion like a torch in the heavens. If anyone missed the message, the river carries splinters and shouted accusations downstream. Too late.
Theo ties off the sail, panting. "Congratulations," he says. "We just declared war on a bureaucracy."
Juliana pats your shoulder. War was declared when they barricaded medicine. We simply accepted the invitation.
Night voyaging tastes of iron and rain. Clouds swallow stars. Only lantern glow leaks from Eveline's hamlet far ahead, hugging cliffs like a crown of candles. Over those cliffs, the sea breathes, salt tang mingling with river mist. You smell freedom, or maybe just a different brand of trouble. As you near the estuary, shapes loom. Barges anchored mid-channel, hulls painted with lily sigil over navy blue. Lanterns sway on masts. Deckhands move like ghosts. You hail in hoarse Latin. A response, in nomine charitatis. That's the code phrase Evelyn arranged. In the name of mercy. Relief hits so hard your knees wobble. They lower a rope ladder. Deck planks feel absurdly solid after days of mud and reed-grown shallows. A tall woman in oilskin cloak greets you, face half hidden, but the steel in her posture says House Orsini. Maris again. She was supposed to be spy, traitor, unknown variable. Now she's quartermaster of this rescue flotilla. You offer bewildered gratitude. She brushes it off. I trade in futures. Today, yours looks profitable. Crates are hoisted. Physician hovers to supervise. Juliana is whisked below for dry clothes, though she insists on overseeing placement of serpent oil vials. Theo and Maris exchange ledgers. She stamps cargo manifest with Orsini crest, legitimizing it for any port authority. Paper shields stronger than plate armor in some wars. Hours blur. Sails raised, tide captured, barges glide into open sea, while dawn smears clouds pink. Land recedes, a silhouette of trees and smoke pillars where the blockade burns or militia scours banks for culprits. You stand at starboard rail, watching rivermouth narrow until it's just a dark finger pointing accusatory into foam. Sea swell kicks inertia out of your stomach. Physician joins, bracing against rail. I ran calculations, he says, tapping skull. Even with fever fatalities, if our salve reaches 3 more colonies, we have mortality within a year. He gazes at horizon, whispers, Avicenna would write a better ending than history usually permits. You expect joy, but weight still tugs. People we left, you murmur. Confessor is many, the children. Physician's eyes soften. Hope's contagion spreads backward, too. Once word arrives that Lady Evelyn sponsors a proven cure, even bailiffs like money more than pride. They'll reopen gates before coffers close. You try to believe them. 3-day sail south hugs coastline, dotted with fishing huts, monasteries, half-ruined watchtowers festooned with gulls. Occasionally, patrol cutters appear on horizon. Maris hoists Orsini trade flag, and they veer off. Nobody wants feud with bankers that underwrite half the duchy's debts.
You rehearse lectures for harbor physicians, refine dosage charts, decant samples into glass ampules. On second night, fever strikes Juliana again, milder than before, but enough to scare crew. Physician diagnoses exhaustion, prescribes rest, infusion of willow ginger. You sit by her bunk as ship creaks. She clasps your fingers. "When I blink," she says, "I still hear our chapel bell. Think it will ever ring peace?"
You promise yes. She nods, falls asleep. You notice her nails, once blackened, now pink crescents. Healing is loud in its own quiet way.
Port St. Vigil unfolds like a fan of terracotta roofs under sun. Evelyn's Hamlet, more accurately. She owns quay, customs house, half the taverns. Dockhands tie lines, gulls scream welcome. But dockside isn't empty. A black carriage emblazoned with episcopal mitre waits, flanked by 2 knights. Great church auditors. Maris squares shoulders, strides down gangplank first. You follow, physician behind, crates borne by sailors. Bishop's envoy, a thin man drenched in lavender water, raises quill. "By authority of His Grace," he intones, "I must inspect cargo for unlicensed medicaments and heretical texts." Maris smiles predatorily. "Of course, House Orsini insists on compliance. Shall we tally value of souls saved versus tariff revenue lost?" Envoy's lip twitches. You step forward with a sealed tube, a documented case study, Leon's fever, dosage, recovery, signed by Father Confessor. He must have sent dove mail after you left. The envoy opens scroll, scans, blanching at Latin footnotes. You add, "The remedy is already in use. Interference now would constitute obstruction of corporal works of mercy." He hesitates. Knights glance at each other. Nobody eager to throttle charity in front of townsfolk. Envoy stamps parchment reluctantly. "Provisionally approved." You exhale. Evelyn emerges from tavern archway clad in sea-green riding habit, hair wind-whipped. She greets each of you by name, pausing to rest palm on Juliana's newly cooled forehead. "The bloom returns," she whispers. To Maris, she offers half-smile. "I anticipated your entrepreneurial flexibility." Maris bows. "Credit my late brother. His absence keeps me honest." Tension breaks with dockside bustle, crates loaded onto mule carts, scrolls carried into hospice wing, Evelyn converted from old salt warehouse. You step inside, a miracle of lime-washed walls, skylights, linen-draped cots. Apothecary shelves already hold jars labeled in neat script. Sarah Alba, Salix pulvis, Oleum serpentinum. You supply the missing ingredient, Chalmogra extract cakes wrapped in Ismane's lily scarf. When physician unpacks one, the whole room smells of pine and black pepper. Nurses murmur wonder. Work begins. Patients file in. Fishermen, dock laborers, shepherd families from hills. Lesions at various stages. Some shrink away when they notice deformities mirrored in your group. Others step forward, eager for relief. You lead demonstration. Warm salve until pliable. Mix with serpentine oil. Apply with linen swab while reciting dose psalm. Confessor's innovation. Nurses practice until motions look like choreographed dance. Days blur again. Clinic halls echo with coughs, prayers, laughter when jokes land. Juliana, recovering, becomes poster child. She tours wards, lifts sleeves to reveal fading plaques, describes freedom of painless steps. Skeptics soften, merchants take notes. Yet rumor outruns medicine. By week's end, port taverns buzz with tales. Renegade lepers sail under banking flag. Miracle ointment forged from snake venom and heretic seeds. Bishop secretly funds alchemy. You worry militia might raid. But Evelyn wields law like rapier. She invites city council for public inspection, orchestrates demonstration where healed children walk dais. Citations from Avicenna displayed alongside scripture references to cleansing of Naaman. Council applauds, donates grain. One afternoon, a courier arrives dusty. Letter from Father Confessor. You gather friends in hospice courtyard and break seal. Brothers and sisters in Christ in chemistry. The fever waned, losses mourned, yet fewer than feared. Bailiff's militia abandoned siege after Lady Evelyn's writ reached them via your persuasive river fireworks. Colony now under diocesan review rather than secular custody. I was asked why records show such miraculous recovery. I replied, because love writes better protocols than fear. They seemed confused, but confusion buys time. Ismena knits again. Leon tends goats. We ring bell for vespers unbroken. Continue your voyage. The world is larger than our orchard. Confessor Abel, formerly the hammer, now content to be nail if holding something together. Juliana wipes tears. Theo smiles skyward. Physician folds letter into breast pocket like vaccine against despair. Eveline summons you at Cliff Manor, overlooking foam-lashed rocks. Evening sun stains windows amber. Inside library, she unfurls a parchment map of kingdoms along trade roads, marked with red dots, known leper settlements. We create a corridor, she explains. Make each dot a beacon. Supply lines, training, legal shields. She slides quill toward you. Need someone to head expedition. Merchant savvy, scholars patience, survivors grit. Her eyes say she's already chosen. You swallow. Home, a word that used to mean orchard walls, now just direction of travel. Could be any dot. You think of Ismene's scarf, seeds awaiting soil, confessor's bell echoing. I'll go, you answer, if team comes too. Juliana laughs. Try leaving me behind. Physician nods solemn. Theo raises glass. Maris, leaning in doorway, arches brow. You'll need ships. I can broker hulls at interest rates only mildly extortionate. Evelyn chuckles. Family reunion on the high seas, then. Plans hatch. Duplicate apothecaries in lockable chests, multilingual pamphlets, secret chapters of Avicenna disguised as psalters. You outline inland routes skirting plague zones, coastal stops where Orsini influence undisputed. Risk assessment forms thicker than Bibles. Yet underneath bureaucracy pulses the simple hope. No one should rot behind walls when cure exists. On departure eve, town square hosts ceremony. Bishop's envoy, same lavender man, reads official decree lifting quarantine for any leper treated under Lily protocol. Crowds cheer, some weep. Port church bells ring in harmony with ship's bells, delightful clangor that sends gulls wheeling. Juliana stands on podium, holding a small brass handbell from Colony Chapel, gift from confessor delivered by courier. She rings it once, clear, sweet note slicing sea breeze. For those still waiting, she declares. Audience quiets. We are coming. Applause erupts. Night before sailing, you sit alone at pier's edge, feet dangling over phosphorescent ripples. Stars reflect like scattered coins. You open palm, Chalmagras seed, Juliana pressed into it. Tiny, ugly, miraculous. You whisper vow, plant it at every stop until map bleeds green instead of red.
Footsteps. Physician appears with 2 steaming mugs of spiced milk. He hands one over, settles beside you. Avicenna says medicine is love in visible form, he murmurs. Tonight the sky prescribes infinity.
You clink mugs, sip. Silence, comfortable. Hulls creak, ropes groan, ships eager. Somewhere inland, goats bleat, bell rings. Universe feels, just for a breath, predictable. Think we'll ever rest? You ask. Physician smiles, eyes glinting candlelight. Rest is overrated. We'll nap between miracles.
You laugh, real, loud, perhaps for first time since colony gates slammed months ago. Laughter bounces across water, spooks a fish, ripples starlight.
Dawn unfurls peach and gold. Sails rise, crews haul lines. Eveline, Maris, Theo bark orders in 3 languages. Juliana secures infirmary supplies below decks, humming lullaby. You step aboard flagship Providence, same mule's name, Good Omen, and take position at rail. Port recedes, horizon yawns. Gulls cry, waves slap, wind tastes of pepper and pine. You close eyes, breathe deep. In that inhale lives every barred door you will unlock. In that exhale, every bell that will ring because you dared cut one rotten chain. History might record only footnotes. First maritime distribution of Chalmugre salve, 14th century. But somewhere a frightened child will wake to see lesions fading instead of hope. That anonymous miracle is your real monument, built not of marble, but of thousands of ordinary mornings where somebody simply gets better. And if someday a weary traveler asks why leper colonies vanished from maps, tell them the truth, not by decree, nor sword, nor saintly thunderbolt, but by stubborn handfuls of people who refused to stay put, who floated down a moonlit river with contraband kindness and set the world's broken skin to healing. Bells fade behind you. Waves ahead beckon. The voyage continues. But for tonight, let the rhythm of hull and tide rock your thoughts to stillness. Close your eyes. Feel deck breathe underfoot. Somewhere in that gentle roll you'll find sleep, and in sleep the soft certainty that every mile of this restless water is carrying you toward a shore where no one is untouchable, and every door stands open. Good night, traveler. Rest easy. Tomorrow we plant lilies.